I caught this piece because you'll see why. The headline says, Buck Cherry's Josh Todd says rock is no longer dangerous. And let's just read a little bit of it. Buck Cherry singer Josh Todd has once again described the current rock scene as lacking danger and memorable songs. The 53-year-old, he looks good for 53, man. 53-year-old California-born musician who co-founded Buck Cherry nearly 30 years ago addressed the state of rock music in a new interview with The Logan Show. He said, as transcribed by Blabbermouth, rock is just not dangerous. And when I say dangerous, I don't mean using foul language or saying that kind of stuff. There's no one separating the pack. Back in the day, there were bands. Every band kind of had personalities, and they were all separate from each other because even though they were doing one genre of music, he explained, I can give a good example. The last decade where there were rock stars was the 90s. I mean, look how many amazing frontmen you had. Lane Staley, Chris Cornell, Kurt Cobain, Eddie Vedder, and Zach De La Rocha. And all these guys were just in a league of their own. And every one of those bands was different. So when you heard them, you knew it was them. And I don't know, since like 2000, it hasn't been like that on rock radio. Todd added, you listen to any new rock radio, it sounds like, to me, this is just my opinion, it sounds like one consecutive band for like 45 minutes. And you don't know who anyone is, and you don't know anybody's name, and there's no guitar heroes, and there's no front man. And I don't know, it's kind of, in my opinion, G-rated. I don't feel like anybody's connecting with their audience in an honest way. I don't know, maybe they are. I think the last band to really do that was Rage Against the Machine. I really like them a lot. I wish they'd put out a lot more records, but they don't. I gotta say, I don't disagree with Josh, and maybe there are people who can correct me if I'm wrong about this, but I think he's kind of on point. I think, and so the main reason that I highlighted this is because I interviewed Josh a little while ago, and he said almost the exact same thing to me. So I'm going to play that clip because this is the other thing. I feel like we do these interviews, right? Like we get a lot of good interviews. I interviewed Tommy Victor from Prong a while ago. Prong, one of my favorite bands growing up. Prove You Wrong and Cleansing and Beg to Differ are just like three phenomenal albums. Another band, like Josh was saying, that just had a sound all their own, stood out from the crowd. I even told Tommy at one point, I felt like Prong was kind of the quintessential alt metal band back in the day. Like they were doing something. Like if you ever heard Prove You Wrong, such a great song. The chords he's using and the kind of style, it's a heavy style, but it's not like chugga chugga heavy, and I always thought that was so cool. So anyway, let's watch this clip of me talking to Josh a couple weeks ago. Ain't I a friggin' big shot? But he expressed very similar sentiment to that in the interview we did. So let me just get this all stretched out for you. Okay, listen to this for a minute. Artists that you would name drop that you really like what they're doing. Other artists.
I don't really listen to that much new rock. I mean, I'm sorry to say, because I don't know, it just doesn't it doesn't interest me as much. I haven't heard really stuff that I don't know. I listen to a lot of pop music and hip hop. Pop music is vocal driven, melody driven, and that's what I want to learn. I want to learn how to write great melodies, and it's vocal driven and written by some of the greatest songwriters in the world. So that's where I go to. And then for danger and stuff that intimidates me, I go to hip hop because it's dangerous. There's not like rock and roll hasn't been dangerous for a long time. I'm sorry to say, in my opinion, it's just been kind of bland, and there's no like rock guitar heroes and frontmen. And, so it's really hard for me to get into it. But, I'll listen to like classic rock still, and.
So I just wanted to play that clip specifically because he said almost the exact same thing to me, like, a month ago. And I think one of our problems is we buried that lead. You know, I'm not the kind of person, I like talking to these people, and I'm not driven enough by self-interest to try and hype a statement like that and be like, look what Josh Todd said. He said that rock today isn't very good. And the reason I brought up Tommy Victor is because there was a story he told me in the interview I did with him. And I think I'm going to have to just recut it because of the way I edited it together. It's in sections and I need to just post it as one complete interview. But he said some stuff about being ripped off by other people in the industry who I'm not going to name. But, you know, he didn't even say ripped off. He kind of like alluded to some other people not paying him and that kind of stuff. And I realized after that interview, I could have taken that bit of gossip and like hyped it online and gone like, Tommy Victor says blah, 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 and made Tommy's life difficult and, you know, make him think I'm a total asshole for, you know, blowing some shit out of proportion. But I didn't do that. And I'm not saying that's what the person here did with the Josh Todd news. I'm just saying I had this scoop way earlier, but I'm not self-interested enough to have, you know, pushed it as much as I probably should have. So let's listen to Josh for just a couple more minutes.
I still like all that old stuff, and I'll go there just to, you know, listen to rock songs, good rock songs.
That's such a great point about rock not being dangerous anymore. I feel like that kind of has been left with like the comedy world, or like you don't really hear anything edgy. Yeah, listen to this asshole. So anyway,